bottom of page Kufin Zayin. So we finished bringing a few psukim, a few sources to explain a Shabbos, the Gil of Shem Havayah. That's why it's the Refuah, and that is why we say B'yem HaShabbos Yipaseach. And that brings another pasuk. 3 lines on the bottom of page Kufin Zayin. Zeh the B'Shabbos Imrim. Shabbos we say after Heidu, we say a bunch of kapitlas. We don't say every day. The first capital is on Natseach Hashemayim Mesapim. What do we say in that mizmer? The Shabbos Hayim LaShemesh some oil bohem. The Rebbe put a shemesh. Shemesh is like an oil. Who kachasen yetzim mechupase. That the sun is like an oil for them, which means a structure. And it says pshat. Oil upchinas malchus. Oil is the madrig of malchus. Is upchinas morgen v'narte kumachase umaste. The oil is the tent that covers, like a tent, like a regular tent. You cover the people inside. So the mosh and the nimshal, oil madrig of malchus, which is the narte, the morgen, the shield that covers chase umaste. Another to reach the level. It says in Gemara, Hosdag and a sivit. Lower yourself, descend in order to get married. So the Gemara says Chosn is Lashon Hosdag. Chosn Yetze means Hosdag, which means the Yerida Gil Shemesh Havai. So Chosn means the idea that Yerida, the Gil, Zeh Mechupasi, Pirush Kalkol Kovet Chupa. Chinas Kalkol, not Pirush, Chinas Kalkol Kovet Chupa. V'oima Zeh B'Shabbos, She'oz Gil P'nei Shem Havai. So we see another source that on Shabbos is the Gil of Shemesh, Chosn Yetze Mechupasi. First, the Shemesh has an oil, it has an artic. And when Yetze Mechupasi means he reveals itself, gets out of the nartic, out of the oil, out of the tent. So that says the Gabe Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh, says Rosh Hashanah, not clear from that. It should say Rosh Chodesh, it looks like it says Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Chodesh Amar Chazal.
Rosh HaChodesh.
Yeah. Rosh Chodesh Amar Chazal. Avia like a poro al shemiat tisereach. So the famous Gemara says, why we say in Sir Izim Echad Lachatas? Why do we bring? That's a different lesson. But why do we bring a Sir Izim Lachatas? Lachaper, Sir Izim Lachaper. Why do we say we bring that on Rosh Chodesh? The Gemara says. The famous Gemara in Chulin, Avia like a pora al shemiat tisereach. It's a kapora mir tereach. Olai and alavaye. Shamayim Hashem Havai. Li is Shem Havai. It's very bekitzer. It's a remes. It's a shchedesh is olai. You reach the level which is above Allah, above alavai, me'al Shem Havai. So that's a remes that Shchedesh, the Gilu, should be Gilu Shem Havai, you need a Madrega which is above Havai. Because he said earlier, just as we said earlier when you get to Shar Chotzar Apnis, the Gilu above, the Amshach of above Havai is the Gilu of Shem Havai. V'lachein Rosh Chodesh ein Nikayim HaMaisa. That he bought earlier in the Maimer, the pasuk in not earlier, right here in the pasuk Shah Chatzar Apnimitz Sogo Sogo Sheish Maisa. That the 6 days Sheish Maisa is the Shah Chatzar Sogo. Shabbos from that itself is mashma that Chodesh is not Yom HaMais. Lo me was ein Yom HaMais. Mishmei is Giddush Ma'avah ein Yom HaMais. That's why it's not called Yom HaMais. Like you said earlier, that Maisa means the Yerida Felikim, so the Yerida, and ein Yom HaMais means it's above Mais. So that's the question was, we had all that explanation. Why? What's the difference in Shabbos? Yom HaChol is mutter b'mais, afal pi is man, the machal mal chayv misa, when you do any personal work in the front of the king, you consider the Mered b'malchus. That's why Shabbos and Yom Tov, we cannot do melach. That's the answer to the Shem Havaya. Mashenk, and the Jews Yom HaChol is not the Shem Havaya. That's the kasha, the Rosh Chodesh, why is it mutter b'melach? If it's not Yom HaMais, it should be also b'melach. What's the answer to that? He says now, the Rosh Chodesh בעצם מבחינת דיבור, מבחינת מלכות, רק שבדיבור אומר שם הוואי. אין לך נעם ראש חודש בגיל השם הוואי, but the level of גיל of שם הוואי, it's Rosh Chodesh, is not as pure as it is Shabbos. It's only through the Dvar Havai, through Malchus, and b'meil it's more behelem. Like you said earlier, you explained earlier, b'chlal, why Sheish Me'achel is also Asa Havai. No, was explained that in the Sheish Me'achel, the Havai is mislabet and Shem Elikim. So there is it's not a full force. B'meil you can have Malach. So similar things happen in Chodesh. It's different than Imei HaMais is b'chlal. The Yerid is very low. But the Chodesh is a place in between. But he goes into a little discussion to explain the difference. Efresh between Shabbos and Chodesh, who Shabbos or Aliyas Adibo. Shabbos, the Dibo, the Eibish's Dibo is ascending. It's Eile, which means Anogal Mat Einchas Adibo Kimachas Machshov. The Anhoga, the fact that Eibish rules this world on Shabbos, not to the Madrig of Divu. It's right place Machshava. The world is ruled directly, and it gets its highest from Madrig of Machshava. Let's explain another place. I am Ashkotsu b'Divamas Kanesha and Ches. If you remember, the Ma'ama Kanesha and Ches in the beginning of the Sefer, it's all longer arichos. But this whole explanation, how do we reconcile the fact that Shabbos is he had a dogma from Rosh Hashanah, that Rosh Hashanah also called it Dvarim Eidim Kadmusan. It was all Arichos discussing Shabbos, the Amshachas and Madrig of Machshava. Mele, so Shabbos, the world is in a higher state. Machshava. Rosh Chodesh, Mashenk Rosh Chodesh, Anogi Pchinas Adiba, Ein Shadiba, Ein Pchinas Aliv, Ubasi. Rosh Chodesh is the Anhaga, the ruling of the world, the rules the world and runs the world is from a law, Madrig of Dibo. Vayna Shadiba in the Prince Rag Shabdibo may Prince Shemavai, but it's a higher level of Dibo than it's a Limais Achel, Mea Maise. It's a Dibo that has a horror of Shemavai. Rosh Chodesh Meir and Meichel Machashalai Dezo. There's another point he brings, another marshal that students always brings on the concept what happens Rosh Chodesh. Chodesh is Meir and Meichel Machashalai Dezo. The regular way, the standard way of Ishtashlos is that the Meichin is going Midas, and Midas going Malchus, just like in the human experience. First there is the contemplation, then there is the feeling, the emotion, and then it comes into speech. So that's the three-stage level. What happens at Chodesh? Chodesh is like the Meichin directly into Dibo without, it's in like in the Mashal. In the Nimshal, the Meichin directly into Malchus. It says either way the Mashal. In our human experience, speech sometimes is an expression of a person's emotion, sometimes expression of his intellect. The person speaks words of love, of emotion, So where does the koyach hadiba get its energy from the midah, directly from the midah, from the emotion? Aval kasham adaba divrei seichel divrei Torah, but when the person speaks intellectual ideas or divrei Torah, speaks Torah, as mekabel adibah ma'amoichin. So then the koyach hadiba gets directly from the moichin, not to the midas. V'rosh chodesh mekabel adibah ma'amoichin shalei yedizor. When she calls the Besider Sharish Chodesh, in the Alter Besider Sharish Chodesh, by Beer the Voim in the Chodesh, in the Maimah, in the Beer and the Maimah Voim in the Chodesh B'Chodesh, there he explains this point how Rosh Chodesh, the Diva, the Malchus receives directly from the Meich. So get because the Meich reached the Malchus directly, not to Zod, that's why it's called. So we find another concept here. We already spoke about a few madrigas still now. There was the madrig, there was Yimei Mais, and Yimei Mais said that Shem Havai is taken Slavish, but it's established in the lower madrig of Dibu, which is Mais, in a seer, in a way that it's hidden. That's why we can do Malach. He spoke about Shabbos and Yontiv. It's Shem Havai Mizgala directly. That's why we cannot do Malach. What happens? Shchodesh is an intermediate state. It's taka nimshach. Shem Havai is taka nimshach, but it's not in a way that it's still in the level of mice. He's going to explain it in Avodas Hashem. That's going to be a marshal, maybe a better marshal to understand the concept. Yuvan zeh, apima shkos b'sef shalbein perek tezayin. So it brings you the famous perek tezayin and Tanya. Perek tezayin and Tanya is a very important perek, especially to us, because the whole Tanya, a big chunk of Tanya talks about is beinunus and ava, that you contemplate, and that brings you to a state of law, ava ve'ira, the emotional proper state. What happens to a person who just doesn't have what it takes? His contemplation does not bring him to the level of the feeling, the proper feeling of avavira. What happens in that case? So over there he says that you should remember that everybody has built-in. They created Yid with the built-in avavira. Mele, the fact that is in his mind he recognizes Kach Yoasa, the Rebbe deserves to be loved and feared. That's enough. That's enough to make his kima mitzvahs reach in the proper state. He says that. So he says, so he brings from Tanya, from Perek to Zayin. Let's open the Tanya. Let's open the Tanya Perek to Zayin to see try to follow the text. A second. So that's the Lashon Tanya. It's important part. Yes, I can sachlei the cloud God ba'avodah lebeinani. Should I put it up? I'll put it up on the WhatsApp. Oh, 1 second. Okay, here we go. Okay, see here's Tanya. Take the Zion. It says like this. צורך לידע כלל גודל בעבינו לבינונים, שגם אם אין יד שכל ורוח בנושא משגס, להוליד אהבת השם בסגלת ליבה, that is the seichel is yatzichel or binose, his mind is generally his intellect is not doesn't understand enough to create avos Hashem is galsli b'shelibe boy gerish be'esh is heart should burn like flames of fire. He has a strong, open desire that he feels. The Ava is hidden. The Hainu Shalev Mevin. He understands stuck in his mind and even in his heart. King Yoaso, that you understand that it's deserved, the Eibush deserves it. Yos, it's proper. His heart understands that he kach Yosa, the Eibush, it's proper that every living thing should expire, should expire. To cleave and to be contained within his life. So he said both ways. Yosaloi, the Eberster, it's proper for his to the Eberster we should do it, and also our nefesh also Yosa. But the nefesh ruach, they are live within the body. And they're like feel like living widows. It means they're contained. Less machshava del tfisa beklal. So because they're in such a state, they cannot reach actual love, but they can only connect them to Torah. So he knows that it's really when he thinks about that gufa, that Yosel, that it's deserving the talumis tvunas liba meichu liba liba shavit. He thinks about it, and Shemakaim can be feed. So because his mind, because his heart and his mind tell him that it deserves people liba shavit, so his actual behavior fits what he feels. There's Hashem chayv to be able to allow feed. And he died. Fish and nigma between the Steve. Tvuna zum mislabesh the mice give Hashem asat ter mitzvah ser listen because Mechem Chai so got from the parachalei the kilos and mamash. So that recognition, the fact that he understands that even if he doesn't have the actual strong feeling of Hara Ve'ira, that recognition itself makes him as if he had Hara Ve'ira. Oilo tvuna zu shemesh oliv iya maviyas elasik b'hem v'lul Hashem is b'inu v'lo yisik b'hem alav tzach hagufay. Since in reality, in Hanami, he doesn't reach the high madriga of Ava Ve'ira, his mind is not strong enough to understand. But the fact that he understands Tvuna means he understands relatively superficially in his mind that this is the proper thing, that itself is enough. Says, so what does it say? Okay, but that's introduction. But later he says like this. Is anybody up in Tanya? It's interesting. Can I read the Tanya? So it's interesting. It's an interesting famous pshat. In the Maimah Chazal. So the simple meaning of means that the person has a lot of good actions and he has a lot of good thoughts. So the Eibishter, out of his benevolence, when he measures his behavior, he says, let's add his action also to the cheshbon of all his good deeds. So like Rosh Hashanah, when he weighs his mitzvahs, even when he gets this good thought that he couldn't bring into action. The Rebbe adds that to the Cheshbon HaMais, but it says a different pshat. Why does it say Metzarf HaMais? It should have said when a person thinks a good thought, the Rebbe says it's as if he did something good. Why is Chazal expressed it in the language of Metzarf HaMais? So he says it's merames to our situation. Hello, Indian, he says pshat like that. When the person has real which is ira and ava, it's real, really expressed open in his heart. There, it's their chuna, it's their nature to be invested in the action and give life. The might to make it fly up high. Kain halev chumri, not Kain. Ki halev gam chumri shari varim shem kayam ma'isa, because the heart, very important difference between the heart and the mind. The heart is part of the rest of the body. Chumri, it's a material aver. Kashari varim shem kayam ma'isa. El shopnimi v'chayislam. It's just the is part of them, but it's deeper. Is the chai. Lachein yachad eslavim is gat l'alesim. That is why the lev, the avavir shebelev, can be included, can be can be invested into the action itself to elevate the action. Aval aratchim v'chim that now that madrega we said earlier that in his mind it just it's a higher level. He doesn't actually feel in his heart that Avavir. He just knows in his mind that Kach Yos, that Eibishter deserves to be loved and feared. So by nature, this type of experience, this type of mental state is too high, it's too elevated from the actual Maisa. So by nature, that madrega of Domus Liba Moiche cannot be affect directly the Maisa mitzvah to elevate it. Elovos ki imlosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzvah nechav l'maisa. So that's me the pshat. Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzvah? It's a special act of goodness and kindness of the Eibishter. He takes that machshav talumis liba, which is really above Maisa, and he mitzvah l'maisa. Ve'ein ikol Hashem machshava toiva. That's why this experience is called machshava toiva. Ke'ein tchilochim mamish b'izgalas liba. Kim etvolis meichem talumis liba kanal. So what do we learn in this? I mean, the most important part is bringing in our mimer is the second part. So we say that two ways, the two mental states. If the person reached the mental state where he has really strong feelings in his heart, and that results in Maisa mitzvahs, then that's an inner connection, a natural connection. If it's only in his mind, in his hidden state, that he recognizes in his mind, intellectual analysis, that Kach Yosa, the Eibishter deserves to be loved and feared, but he doesn't actually experience in his heart. So this type of mental state is not really on its own enough to elevate the mitzvahs. The Eibishter does a special act of kindness, benevolence, mitzvah l'mais. That's the Tanya says it. Now let's go back to our mind. So what does it say in Tanya? How
come he's not having it the prayer? Why is it only between Liboy and Moichoy?
Because he can't, he doesn't have it. Look what it says on top. It says Mish ein yat sich lavor b'nosem maseges lo'ed davos Hashem b'izgalas libo. It's simple. He doesn't have. I mean, actually, that 90 the vast majority of people that our experience is in that state also. That's
because there is a chisaron in these bonus, not because you can't.
אין לך נמי, זה חיסון לזבנוס, רק האב מסותרס. That's what he explains. That the Hizbon is not strong enough to create the proper feeling. Why do we lack the feeling? Because that's why it's hidden in the mind and it's hidden in the heart. It cannot be expressed. Because it's a chison as far as reaching the creating a real feeling. Yeah. It's a chison. But what's the chison? The chison means that
It's a chison in the person or the chison in the poem. Some people cannot reach that, or the person is not using up everything that he could.
It sounds here. Okay, it sounds here that some person just can't do it. It just can't do it. It's a chison in the person. Maybe it can. It doesn't say it as it does. It's not like a musar that it's something's wrong with you. It says some people just don't have what it takes. I don't. It says it describes that some beinanim cannot reach that stage of his beinus brings real ava ve'ira. That's what it says here. So even these people, they have the talumas, but they still have they can reach that level of understanding that kachyosa, that they understand in their mind that the Eibusha deserves to be loved and feared, but they cannot bring such a state that they actually have the feeling of ava ve'ira. But in this mind, he says you shouldn't realize that even though you have that chison, you should not feel bad, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzvah l'maisa. At least if you do the right thing, you do what you could do, so the Eibusha connects these boinenus to the mice. That's the point of this parak. There's the last.
Could we say that the person that is having the feeling is in a higher level?
Yeah. But this is what he's trying to. This is actually the whole point of the Maimer. He says later, it doesn't say. I'm sorry. The point. Yes, that's the whole idea of this parak is to explain to Beinani you shouldn't feel that if he cannot reach the ultimate Ava Ve'ira, means his entire Stero Mitzvahs doesn't have a chance to be Eila L'mayla, because the Eibush does Mitzvah L'mayla. Even if he does the right thing, and what he could do, so the Eibush connects it. Doesn't say it's a mile. So what does he say now, Maimah? That in Tanya we just learned that a type of Ava Ve'ira, which is based Galus Alev, which is revealed, which is like the proper way, that has a direct connection and its own natural connection to Ma'aseh Mitzvah. So Bepoel, on its own, they're above Ma'aseh. K'alev Shayach LePoel, like you just read in Maimon. K'alev Shayach LePoel. In Tanya, the Lashon is K'alev who. What's the Lashon? K'alev Gam Gan Chumri K'shar Ivam Sheklei HaMaaseh. That's the Lashon in Tanya. Here the Lashon is K'alev who Shayach LePoel. So it's the same concept. So when the Ava Ve'ira is in the heart, in a revealed way, in an expressed way, then it's a direct chayes to the mice. Ava Ve'ira the Ava Ve'ira, which is hidden in his mind and in his heart. So that's the whole point it takes out from this. When they get to our discussion here, when they get to our discussion here, the only thing is quoting is that there is a level of Talumas Liba which is above Mice. That's the key point that it takes from the Tanya. And again, Nazil in your name, Kamarkin brings some Malchus. So the Madriga of Malchus, the Mekana Basio, like it says in Zayah, Choch Ma'abe Lo Mekana Batzilus, Be Eimei Lo Bebriya. And what's the Lashon? The Zeranpin is Beitzira. And Malchus is Mekana Basio. The spheres of Malchus dwells in Olam HaAsiyah. B'chinas ha'er v'hameichin, b'chinas machzim, b'chinas zo. Just like he said in the mashal from Avodas Hashem, that what makes the mice, what gives the mice the chayz, the ava v'ir shebizgalas liboy. Same thing in the nimshal, in the spheres l'mayla, the malchus, which is like mice, gets his chayz from Marig of zo. The nehi the zo nasi meichel nukva. That's the expression, the way Kabbalah always uses this lashon nasi meichel. Nasi meichel, that becomes the source, the nehi, the zo, the netzach yisod, the lower level of the spheres of netzach yisod. They become the meichel. Shazer shechel eschayis lasi. Ava b'chinas ha-meichel. And the mile b'chinas chayis lasi. Just like Tanya says, the talumas liboy. That's above us. If not for the Eibush Tamitzaf Lamais, the same thing in the Nimshal, the Maila, the Meichin, the Madrig of Meichin in the sphere of Maila is not Nimshach and Malchus. Lachain, the Meisachol Sham Shach Malchus Zorim in Mais. So going back to our discussion here, the difference between Meisachol and Rosh Chodesh, that Meisachol, the Dam Shach Zorim in Mais. אבל בראש חודש, מבחינת המלך נמשך ממלכה שלא יודע זה, אין ממייס. מכל מקום מותר בעשיית מלאכה, שהרי זה מבחינת חייס לעשייה. כמו עכשיו הטבע, כשבר רוצה מייס החולו. So that's interesting. It's an interesting marshal. So Rosh Chodesh is compared to what it says in Tanya, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzaref al ma'aseh. That the Meichen themselves cannot reach they cannot reach in a what is the lashon? So the Rosh Chodesh is compared to the concept of the Baruch Hu machshava itself and ma'aseh. Machshava on its own cannot reach the ma'aseh, but the Eibishter does a special act and it connects it. So that's similar to that happens in Rosh Chodesh. So he brings from Tanya another lashon. If you see in the Tanya, keep the Tanya open, it brings right after what we finish, there's a Hagor. Because of Hagor, let's read the Hagor in Tanya.
מה כל הדין נמשך במלכוס שלא יהיה על ידי הזו?
Yeah, that's the whole point. Just like in the
how is it נמשך?
Directly. It's a direct line, not to zo. It's a direct line, like you said earlier in the mashal, in regular mashal. If I'm medaber divrei ava, or kasher medaber divrei sechem, kabel divrei ma'meichen. The meichen is nimshal directly into dibo, not to the midas. Not so. The same thing here. Rosh Chodesh is a special day that the dibo is mekabel the chayes directly from meichen without this filter, without the filter of zo. That's similar to what it says in Tanya, that the person is misborn in his mind. He thinks, and that affects his behavior directly, that gives chayes to the behavior directly, even though he doesn't experience the tchila v'rchima b'izgalus libur. That in shalal is on, not to the intermediary of the mouth. Let me go weiter in Tanya. In Tanya it says in the Hagor, after he finished saying Tanya, ואין נקרא מחשבה טובה, כי אין התחיל הולכים ממש בזגס ליבה, כי מתבונס מויכם תאומס ליבה, הגור, כוסה בזר ועץ חיים, צזן זן עץ חיים. Is it talking about this or the other one? Yeah. The tvuna oisi is ben obas. In its Chaim, in the Kabbalah, it says that there's a difference between Bina and Tvuna. What's Tvuna? Tvuna is Oisius Ben Ubas. The word Tvuna is made up of the letters of the Oisius of Ben Ubas, son and daughter. What is Ben Ubas? So he says here, Pshat, Chilo Chimo, that sometimes Ben and Bas, this is the son and daughter, are really the two emotions of Ava Ve'ira. Ava, there's a few Muslim why they're related. Ava is Ben, like it says in Tanya, Zohar Chazdoi, the Zohar is Chesed. Ira is, I remember how, the Ira is Bas. So Tvuna means Tvuna means a lower level of bina. It already has the ben of bas. It's the ava ve'ira is already expressed there. If that's okay, that part he doesn't bring in here, but he brings the second part. If that sometimes the tvuna becomes the meichin of the meich. Benukva ze'erampin is benukva. So the ze'erampin here is not nukva de zo. The tvuna becomes the meichin. So that's the lashon Tanya in the Hagor. Now he brings it here and says like this. Zeo shekosu ba'go the lifa'omim. Oh, so what does lifa'omim mean? Lifa'omim ha-meichin from ha-tvuna. It's not as meichin nukva de zo. Shenesh ater mitzvah. V'aynu Kamoi berish chedesh, ha-meichin, that's the chayes na-malchus, the zoh, not malchus, that's sir, shezayin, eis ater mitzvah. So, in other words, first we spoke in the marshal, in the nimsh, the marshal, the nimsh. In our case, the marshal. The way it's not the way it's now Avodas Hashem, that the machshava tova kadosh baruch hu mitzav l'maisa, which the machshava tova is the talumas moich. Where's the lashon? Talumas moichai. Talumas. I'm sorry. Tvuna is moicha. Tvuna is like lashon tvuna. Tvuna is moichai. The way it is in the mind. Lifa'omim. See the lashon in Zayar is lifa'omim. So he says here that the lifa'omim means. Chodesh, for example, Chodesh is the lifa'omim. Lifa'omim, there's a direct line. The tvuna means that the meichin is here directly into malchus. Nukva the zoh. I don't know why we need the word the zoh here. The point is the nukva. They hear the malchus.
But lifa'omim is not lifa'omim and Rosh Chodesh. There are two different things. Mesaf l'maise is because a person does it as we learned it. The person does himself, but it does not reach. But lifa'omim, it just seems like a cry. It's randomly. You know, see, there are two different concepts. It's not
two different concepts. You can say lifa'omim a few things. Lifa'omim, see, in our mind it says "Eine kamoi b'Rosh Chodesh." So that's what happened. Lifa'omim means Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is the time when the spheres of Meichin is here directly into Malchus. That's the lifa'omim in this case. But also lifa'omim means when a person does that thing, the person when he does the machshava tova, when that's what lifa'omim means. It's but let's not say in Tanya the Mamish says it together. But in our mind it sounds like one is a mashal, the nimshal. The way it is in Avodas Adam, that he lifa'omim means when he does it the proper way, and it's then mitzav l'maisa, but it doesn't happen. It's not a constant thing. That's why it's lifa'omim. It's not something constant. But in our mind it says kamoi b'Rosh Chodesh. So maybe the lifa'omim means, for example, Rosh Chodesh. Maybe there's other times also. So he added another layer here to explain. Like I said, we have an issue here to explain the inyan of Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is l'cha'era like it's a sort of a paradox. It's eina yema ma'isa muta b'siyas malach. It's like two opposites. It's like saying eina v'yeshne b'vasacht. It's not yema ma'isa, but it's muta b'siyas malach. What does it mean? So the last part of the Maimer, the marshal was from Yuvan Zeh explained. It's like let's think about it from this perspective. That the Maise, there's no Isgalus Avavir in the Maise. The Maise itself does not have the quality of Avavir. So it's Mitzat Sheni ain't a Maisa because Hakadosh Baruch Hu Mitzav Maisa, because there is an act here that the Meichin is nimshach in the Maisa. So this is like an example an example to these two opposite things that happen in Rosh Chodesh. It's mutar b'asiyas malacha, which means in our case, mutar b'asiyas malacha is a chison. Chison means there's no isgalus. The Hashem Havai is not big galus. That's why it's mutar b'asiyas malacha. At the same time, because there is something there, similar to what it says in Tanya. There's no avavir b'meila on its own. The Maisa Mitzvah, so Tata Avir doesn't have its own power, but at the same time, there's the Machshavat Teva. Machshavat, it's the Gile of Rosh Chodesh compared to this Machshavat Teva.
And what happened in Shabbos?
He's not talking about Shabbos is Bechlal. Shabbos is higher. Shabbos is also Vasiyas Malacha. Shabbos is similar to the other way. It
But
says,
it's also Nimshach in Malchus.
yeah, but it's nimshach in such a way. No, it says it's oile. Shabbos, the whole malchus is elevated to higher state. The way the amshach is in malchus is we can compare it to the other way. If the person to the way the person does have avavir, means the ma'ase feels the actual avavir. It's a higher level of ma'ase. It has the Gil Shem Avayde. Beis Galus. Just Avavir Beis Galus Liboy. So that's similar. I mean, you can use the mush, he doesn't use it here. But he's going to go now to another way to explain the difference in Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos. Again, so Shabbos, both Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh are Einem Yom HaMaisa, but the difference is Shabbos is also B'asiyas Malacha and Rosh Chodesh is Mutar B'asiyas Malacha because there's no real, because the Gil of Shem Havaya is not as fully expressed, because Shaloyal Dezo, in other words, the inner Shaloyal Dezo sounds like a chison, just like in Aveda and Perik Design. It's a chison, so it cannot reach the full expression of Avavir. That's a Chayub Pshat. Okay, but now he brings in another way to explain the difference in Shabbos and Chodesh. Well, then there's another way. So now he brings in we had it a few times in this Sefer Mamorim. The difference between these two shiluvim of Havai Ba'adna and Adna Ba'avai. What Sha'ai Sarish Goyva. Like we said that if you see in the Sfada Shesidur, we have the Shem Yutke and Vovke and the Shem Adna are combined into one word. But there are two ways to do it. Sometimes Yud, first the Yud of Havaya and the Aleph of Adna. So that means Shil of Adna Bahavaya. It means the Havaya is the first letter is the Yud. So Havaya is the dominant one. The Oisarish and Goiva. And then there's Shil of Havaya Be'adna. The Aleph of the Adna comes first. So there's two Shiluvim. What's Meintos? The Shabbos, the Shil of Adna Bahavaya. Shabbos, the Adna is into Havaya. Havaya is the dominant one. That's why I start with the Yud, and then comes the Aleph of Adna, then the Hey, and then the Dal of Adna. So that's called Shil of Adna Ba'avaya. The Shem, which means Shem Adna Velikim Oilim V'nichlolim B'Shem Havaya V'Agilu Shem Havaya. That happens on Shabbos. The Rosh Chodesh Shil of Havaya Ba'adna. V'Hanhoga. What?
I'm sorry, Shem Adna is Elikim the same?
Yeah, Adna Elikim is the same. Yeah, so that's something we find in Chassidus in other places. In Sheikhet Vayamona. I mean, we know it's two different shemas, but in a way, Adna and Elikim what they present the same idea. And if you think about it, also, Miloshin. Even in Pshat, what Elikim means, the what is the Shefet? Elikim means the ruler, and Ad is also Odin. Odin and Lekah, both of them, express the same idea of Malchus, generally speaking. So Adnan Elikim and also Malchus. Okay, there's another concept in Kabbalah. Adna is Malchus, Elikim is Gvura. It says Malchus Binyanim Gvuras. Because Malchus and Gvura are interconnected, both express the idea of Yerida, of Tzimtzum. So, Al Kaponim, R'Shoidesh Shilu Havai Ba'adna, Dahanogim Shem Adna, but Zem Meir Gila Shem Havai. So that's just another way to bring out the point. In other words, in Rosh Chodesh Havaya is there, but it's Meshulav at Adna. Adna is the dominant one. Mashenken, going back, Mashenken and Meisach Choil also says Sheish Yom Asa Havaya. So there the Havaya is hidden even more than Shulav Havaya Adna. The Havaya is Shemesh Morgan Havaya Likim, that the Shem Havaya is totally hidden. Ain't near big cloud. The Shem Havaya is totally, it's there, but it's totally hidden. So we have three madrigas. But the last concept is not developing varichus. To summarize, we spoke about like I said before, there's the three madrigas. There's Imei Sachoil, there's Rosh Chodesh, which is in some combination of Choil and Shabbos, because it's not Yom HaMa'aseh, but it's Mutar B'Siyas Melacha. In Shabbos and Yontiv, okay, there's a different Shabbos and Yontiv also. Yontiv Melacha Seichel Nefesh Mutar. So that's he doesn't go into it. In this Maimon, Shabbos and Yontiv in general, we have the idea of Gila Shem Havaya K'may Shehu. Of course, the Shabbos of Chodesh Achar Me'achar. So that's what happens. Shabbos of Chodesh. In our experience, it comes after the Meisach Choil. Our loss is a different madriga. The Osid Lava says you're going to reach a higher level of Shabbos and Chodesh. The Osid Ksiv, oy mit the Chodesh b'Chodesh, mit the Shabbos b'Shabbat. What is Chodesh b'Chodesh, Shabbos b'Shabbat? Chodesh shel Chodesh, Shabbos shel Shabbos. Shabbos Achar v'K'may Choil nechshel gab Shabbos the loss. All right. Okay. I'll stop.